It's always been a great community. It's still a great community because it's populated by great people in the community who love Atlanta.
This is National Night Out, and we're pleased to be here in the Collier Heights, historic Collier Heights community. So we've got representatives from all of our public safety agencies here, APD, AFRD, the court system are here at this time, and we're having a cookout, but it's bigger than that. We are reclaiming the streets for the community, from the criminals. You know, you can't terrorize us anymore. You can't victimize us anymore.
We have to be intentional about rebuilding relationship between community and our police. And I think it's not just about building the relationship, but reinstilling trust back in our communities. And especially at a time where crime is at its highest we've seen in this nation, I think it's even more important that we're working collaboratively with our local police officers and our community members to help mitigate the continued rise in crime.
Anytime that a community comes together, it builds a stronger city. When neighbors talk to each other, when they talk to their elected officials, when they talk to their firefighters and police officers, it makes for a really strong community, and that's what we want to see across the city. So tonight is proof of that all of our neighborhoods are strong and vibrant, and together we can make our city safe.
It's an opportunity for them to get close up to the residents and just really show that they're human beings. You know, police officers are human beings just like anybody else. They've got feelings, and so the police love doing this. This is their time where they get an opportunity to really come together and don't have to write reports and can really talk on the same level as the citizens.
Thank you all so much.
At the heart of National Night Out, safer and stronger communities happen when we're connected. And for 17 years, Midtown Neighborhood Association has been hosting this event. Even the rain didn't keep people away. I think it speaks to the sense of community here that exists. The city's going through a challenging time right now, and connectedness and community is even more important than it has been over the last several years.
We are here because we are very encouraged, and we want our neighbors to do Citizens on Patrol, look out for one another during this crime wave here in Northwest Atlanta.
And when we talk about crime, it's more than just our police officers who, of course, put their lives on the line every day and night for us, but we have to have strong communities and strong community policing where the people know the officers and the officers know the people in the communities, and we can work together to drive out crime from our neighborhoods.
I just got through with a conversation with the Atlanta Police Department and the community, asking questions about crime and how we can make a difference. And I'm very excited about the enthusiasm from the neighborhood folks.
You see something, you what? Say something. We need to fight this crime. That's why I'm glad to see these officers out here.
This is the neighborhood that I live in, and these beautiful homes have beautiful neighbors, and they're all here to talk about public safety and to see each other. Always remember to be safe and to look out for your fellow man and take care of your police officers as they take care of us.
Historic Collier Heights neighborhood happens to be my neighborhood, and so this is always my last best stop. The rain didn't stop them. They're out here to fellowship, to meet their neighbors, to have fun with their neighbors, but also to keep cognizant and remember about public safety. Our fire department and police department always come out so the community can say thank you to them for all the great work that they do. Well, we are here because we are celebrating 10 years of the existence of Jenny Drake Park. And I'm so proud to be here as council member who represented this district. Miss Jenny Drake, who the park is named after, lived next door. She would call my office almost every other day. If a leaf fell off a tree in this park, she would call. And she was always a great caretaker. And so it's a great story. Today, the proclamation, of course, is celebrating 10 years of this park. But it's also great that it is the Juneteenth celebration, because we're celebrating not only that enslaved African Americans were freed, finally, when they had already been freed 2 years ago, but it's also freeing up this community to have a wonderful, lovely green space where they can come and commune with nature. So all of it comes together for the good.
Today we're out here partnering with Westwood Community Group with a vision. We have known these ladies for over 20 years and they work hard in the community. So they wanted to get active and help their neighbors that aren't able to get out. Today we have fresh chicken, fresh corn, fresh bell pepper, onions, and tomatoes, and big bags of potatoes for those seniors to get ready for the 4th of July holiday. So I just want to thank my colleague Matt Westmoreland for all of his support and help throughout the years. And we want to give a special thank you to Wayfield Foods, Kroger, and Publix, and the Atlanta Community Food Bank, of course. We'll be supplying food for over 300 residents total today. My heart is warm and so thankful that I am able to provide support and resources for communities where those seniors and those that, not only the seniors, but those that are without employment at the moment and need just an extra boost to help them.
We're out here in beautiful Westwood, working with Councilmember Andrea Boone and the Westwood Community Group to deliver food to dozens of homes and hundreds of families here as we move into the holiday weekend. It is such an important time to always make sure that we're taking care of our residents, especially those who are homebound, especially our children who might not be in school right now. And so as we all look forward to celebrating the 4th of July, we want to be able to make sure that the folks can do that, have food in their homes and celebrate, and make sure that we're taking care of those who need it the most. So we've got a wide variety of food that we're delivering today, everything from chicken to corn to bell peppers, making sure that our residents are well stocked as we move into the holiday weekend and doing our best to do right by the residents of Westwood. And we've got a great group of volunteers who are here helping deliver food with us, and looking forward to seeing our residents and saying hello and happy Independence Day.
Chastain Park is the largest park in the city of Atlanta. This is the last piece of the Chastain Park path, and it's taken over 25 years since it began, and we are here at a groundbreaking to celebrate this last piece getting ready to start. You know, the phrase, it takes a village, well, it certainly takes a village here. There have been lots and lots of organizations who have helped make this happen. I think there are over 500,000 people and probably about 250,000 dogs that use the path each year. It's an asset that is used by many, many people, from young people walking along to people on bikes to people running and exercising and folks coming after work to enjoy a stroll in the park. And the path has really been a catalyst for revitalizing the park, and so lots of park partners here today with NYO and the horse park and the pool, and it's a wonderful time to celebrate together.
We're out here in beautiful Westwood, working with Councilmember Andrea Boone and the Westwood Community Group to deliver food to dozens of homes and hundreds of families here as we move into the holiday weekend. It is such an important time to always make sure that we're taking care of our residents, especially those who are homebound, especially our children who might not be in school right now. And so as we all look forward to celebrating the 4th of July, we want to be able to make sure that the folks can do that, have food in their homes and celebrate, and make sure that we're taking care of those who need it the most. So we've got a wide variety of food that we're delivering today, everything from chicken to corn to bell peppers, making sure that our residents are well stocked as we move into the holiday weekend, and doing our best to do right by the residents of Westwood. And we've got a great group of volunteers who are here helping deliver food with us, and looking forward to seeing our residents and saying hello and happy Independence Day.
Will be absent today. Ms. Lindo, would you read the remote meeting statement, please?
Yes, good afternoon. Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. Today's Community Development and Human Services Committee meeting is being conducted remotely as advertised and in accordance with Georgia Code Section 50-14-1. The meeting will be conducted in conformance with Robert Rules of Order and the Rules of Council as authorized by the City Code. The public may access the meeting conference bridge toll-free by dialing 877-579-6743 and entering conference ID number 831-599-1256. This information was provided on the Friday, September 10th, 2021 public meeting notice. The public may also view the meeting on Channel 26, the Council's homepage at citycouncil.atlantic.ga.gov, Facebook and Twitter pages at ATL Council, and the Council's YouTube channel. All presentations are available on the Atlanta City Council website and accessible via the Community Development Human Services Committee Presentations page. Today's meeting agenda was also published and made available on Friday, September 10th via the city's website at atlantacitygA.iqm2.com. In addition, the public is able to submit comments via voicemail at 404-330-6089 yesterday between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. These comments will be played during the public comment portion of this meeting. All persons present on the remote council meeting conference bridge are requested to please mute your phones and speakers. Meeting participants wishing to speak must be acknowledged by the committee chair. Amendments, substitutes, and informational documents have been distributed to committee members beforehand. Thank you all in advance for your cooperation.
Thank you much. Next item on the agenda is the adoption of it. I will make a motion to adopt. Is there a second?
Second, Smith.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Smith. If you will open the vote.
Awesome home theater, by the way.
Hold on, Mr. Chair.
Cool. Sorry for my...
One moment, Mr. Chair. One moment, there seems to be a delay. Mr. Chair, there seems to be some technical issues. Perhaps we can. Oh, yep. Yeah.
That's fine. Miss, I got you. Miss Smith is my second. Miss Shepard, how do you vote?
Yay.
Mr. Hillis? Yay. Mr. Brown?
Yay.
All right, 5 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. I will not make a motion. Mr. Bond, is that you?
Yeah, 6 yeas.
There we go. We've been joined by Councilmember Bond. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted. Next up, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. Ms. Smith, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Shepard?
Yes.
Mr. Hillis?
Mr. Chair, I think we can vote electronically now if you would like.
Well, we can finish up this way. Mr. Hillis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
All right. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved. We'll move back to electronic voting after public comment. Mr. Massenberg, if you will play those 3 comments now, please.
Greetings, council members and staff. A special greeting to you, citizens and voters of Atlanta, paying attention to your government in action. Ben Howard, Senior Advocate, Public Policy Analyst. The NPUR 9 maintains low NPUR attendance, averaging 30 to 35 residents and stakeholders per meeting, and they mean to keep it that way. Ineptness, obfuscation, and obscurities are so rampant that neither the council member from Council District 11 or the council member from Council District 12 or the post-at-large council member can help the NPUR 9 muster greater attendance out of the thousands of residents in those Southwest Atlanta council districts. One might think that movers and shakers like Antonita Robinson, Ricardo Jacobs, and Corliss Clare could double that attendance figure in an instant. They could, but they won't try to increase attendance because the fewer residents who attend, the fewer people they have to try to exercise control over. But be on the lookout, NPUR 9. Newcomers are coming to NPUR, and some may be bringing innovative discussions, such as the creation of an NPUR Quality of Life Committee. Stay tuned. Antonita Robinson, Corliss Clare, Ricardo Jacobs, Albert White, Burnett L. Scott, Allison Hathaway, Cheryl Brown, Jerry Williams, Agent X, you know who you are, and you undercover NPUR 9 cohort supporters and enablers. Stay tuned.
Get on to Spirit of Christ. My name is Henri Jordan. So when these corruptibles they are put on incorruption, and these morals are put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written. Death is swallowed up in victory. 1 Corinthians 15, chapter 54, verse. The second death is eternal punishment in the lake of fire, experienced only by the unsaved. Corruption leads to death, but incorruption is life. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Matthew 5, chapter 7, verse. Those who are merciful shall obtain mercy. Has reference to those who have been born again by the mercy of God. Jesus let me know I can't work without the homeless calling out Jesus. Blessed is the man that maketh the Lord his trust and respecteth not the proud, nor such as turn aside to lies. Psalm 40th chapter 4th verse. His petition is a plea for deliverance from his enemy. But it is wider than that. We can be an enemy to ourselves when we disobey God. And I will take to you, to me, for a people, and I will to you of God, and ye shall know that I am the Lord your God, which bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Exodus 6, chapter 7 verse. God's desire is to form a godly community for his people. Let us ask Jesus to be what he says to be. Without Christ, we can't make it. And obeying him. Give us that power to obey Jesus. The fight that's been in us, around us, and in others. Thank you for listening. Obey Jesus.
A soul of spiritual meaning as a experience. I call on the community to resource committed to like to know that we are living a time in the city of the capital city of the state of Georgia. Georgia is one of the states that has never been fairly representation to reparation. And time raised to readdress the problem that darker people continue to suffer in this state. And how with economic training, economic access to opportunity to show a stable livelihood for families. So I ask you numbers, all this community, how that you can sit on a committee, try like a tribe, and have a lot of new transparency for allow workforce development. You have had business dollars appropriated and offered to this condition. And what is the result? Thousands of young men continue to be locked up in the top. Thousands of young men are not being economic trained for opportunities to have access to work in the night. So I ask, where is the mayor going to give the age of that? Where is the mayor that's going to say something about helping the condition of the men as they find themselves black, peace, and power and opportunity? Thank you, brother. I'm going to
That concludes the public comments, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is communications.
Mr. Chair, it's 21C-0102. This is communication from Elizabeth Coyle, Chair of Beltline Network, Inc., submitting the appointment of Mr. David Mitchell to serve on the Atlanta Beltline Tax Allocation District Advisory Committee. This appointment is for a term of 2 years, and Mr. Mitchell should be on the line.
Mr. Mitchell, are you here? David, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Oh. Mr. Mitchell, are you here? Mr. Mitchell?
Mr. Chair, staff is informing us that he is currently not on the line.
Okay, then why don't we move on to the next one and we can come back to you join us.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the next item is 21C-0103. This is communication from Mayor Keisha Lanfano, appointing Ms. Malika Redmond to serve as a member of the Atlanta Reproductive Justice Commission. This appointment is for a term of 3 years and requires City Council confirmation.
Ms. Redmond, are you here?
I am.
All right, thank you for joining us. Take a minute to introduce yourself to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Westmoreland. Thank you, committee. My name is Malika Redmond. I am the CEO and co-founder of Women Engage, an organization that does nonpartisan voter engagement and reproductive justice, health advocacy, and education here in the city of Atlanta.
Awesome. I appreciate your willingness to serve. If there are no questions or comments from the committee, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
All right. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. If you will open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Bond, how would you like to vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, 6 yeas, 0 nays, that item is favorable. Thank you, Ms. Redmond.
Thank you.
Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 21C-0104. It's a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance-Bottom appointing Mr. Joshua Humphreys to serve as a member of the Municipal Market Company Board of Directors. This appointment is for a term of 2 years and requires City Council confirmation.
Mr. Humphreys, are you here?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us. If you take a minute and introduce yourself or talk a little bit to the committee about why you'd like to serve on this board.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Hi, everyone. My name is Josh Humphreys, and I currently serve as the city's Director of the Office of Housing and Community Development. I love to have the opportunity to serve on the Municipal Market Company Board to work with the Sweet Auburn curb market, and I think the market really has the opportunity to continue. Kind of the last 100 years has been serving downtown and neighborhoods near downtown, advancing economic development and food access, and really supporting small businesses incubation in the city. And so excited to have the opportunity to continue that work, and it coincides really closely with a lot of the work that our team is already doing downtown and with small businesses throughout the city.
Thank you much. Any questions or comments? All right, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second? Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Six yeas, 0 nays, that item is favorable. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, everyone.
Ms. Linda, would you sound number 4, please?
Yes, Madam. Yes, Mr. Chair. That's 21C-0105. This is a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance-Bottom appointing Mr. John C.D. Jr. to serve as a member of the Atlanta Urban Design Commission in the Landscape Architect category. This appointment is for a term of 3 years and requires council confirmation.
Colleagues, I have been informed that Mr. C.B. has withdrawn or declined the appointment, and so I will make a motion to file. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Brown. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond.
Aye.
Six yeas, 0 nays, that item is filed, or the recommendation is to file. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 21C-0106. This is a communication from Mayor Keisha Lance-Bottom reappointing Mr. Christopher Edwards to serve as a member of the Atlanta Housing Authority Board of Directors. This appointment is for a term of 5 years to begin retroactively on September 2nd, 2019 and expires September 1st, 2024. This appointment requires City Council confirmation.
Dr. Edwards, are you here?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you joining us today. If you just take a moment to reintroduce yourself to the committee.
My name is Dr. Christopher Edwards, lifelong as an adult Atlantan. Many of you I've met before and know, and my passion is always in service to the city. Whenever I'm asked to do so, and my family is asked to do so, that's been one of the honors of our lives, and certainly in this capacity.
Thank you very much. I'm grateful for your service in the past and for the 5 years to come. And so if there are no questions or comments, I will make a motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Westmoreland and a second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Brown, how do you vote? Mr. Brown? close that vote and mark Mr.
Brown is away.
Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is
favorable. Thank you, Dr. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee.
It is my understanding that
Mr. Mitchell from item number 1 is with us. Is that true? Mr. Mitchell, you here?
Staff does not have him on the line, Mr. Chair.
He says he can be unmuted.
Gotcha. All right. I tell you what. Why don't we move into the first presentation, and I will connect Ms. Lindo and Mr. Mitchell by phone.
Maybe he's on the wrong phone number or something. Maybe he's on the, I don't know.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Commissioner Lannon, are you here?
I am, yes, sir.
Awesome. If you would kick us off with your quarterly update for the Department of Branson Community Development, that would be great.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairman Westmoreland, and good afternoon, CDHS council members. I am pleased to present this quarterly update for the Department of Branson Community Development, and I am at this point on the slide that reads agenda. Today, I will touch upon the department's key metrics and provide just a brief update on our progress since my last update. And as for the mission and the vision, the team remains committed to the mission of furthering affordable, equitable, and resilient communities throughout our city. I'm now on the slide that reads key programs. As I stated last update, the city received annual allocation of 60 home ES opera funds from HUD. We also provide Section 8 assistance to low-income residents. We are extending neighborhood stabilization program funds that the city previously received. HUD no longer allocates SP funds, and HUD is actually closing out that program nationwide. Ours has not yet completed its closeout, so we will not receive additional NSP funds. The department anticipates playing a more engaged role in assisting with the departments that are applying for non-HUD grants, but this is not yet there. We are still building internal capacity toward those particular efforts. As for the department's top priority, hiring and training staff remains a high priority for us. We are still hiring. We are still training across the department's divisions. We have stored up our compliance division. We have devised, updated, and drafted new policies and procedures. We've got them approved through HUD as necessary, and we are implementing those policies and procedures daily, weekly, monthly. Improving the timeliness and the compliance for us remains challenging. We do continue to implement the newly devised policies and procedures, as I just stated, but we have found that many of our service providers are also in need of additional training, and we are providing resources for them through the department, through the mayor's office, but also with the assistance of HUD. HUD has provided us resources, and we are providing those resources in turn to our service providers. As for improving the notice of funding availability process, we are revising our NOFA process. You can anticipate, or residents and potential applicants can anticipate, that the department will separate its applications. We believe that will make the process easier to navigate. We will provide more pre-application access. We are working to make the application easier, and the best way to do that is to educate our current service providers, as well as providing education for potential applicants. We know that many people in the community really just strive to provide services that the residents need, but it's vitally important that those potential applicants understand the importance and understand better what HUD requires and what the city requires, so that they make more informed decisions. We have found that some are not well prepared for the reimbursement process, for the contracting process, and it proves to be undue burden on them. And I think if they know more of what's expected, they can make that decision better up front.
Commissioner, hold on one second. Ms. Lindo, the one pager being showed on the screen is not the slide presentation that the commissioner is presenting.
Oh, that's for an item that's coming up later in the agenda.
Indeed.
Yes. I apologize. I didn't even see that was up.
No, that's not. That's your fault. It's on our end. Ms. Lindo or someone from the IT staff, do we think we can switch that out, please? Ms. Lindo? All right, there's the deck. So why don't Commissioner, if you want to pick up it seemed like you were somewhere between slide 3 or slide 4.
I think I'm on slide 6, department metrics.
Yep, there we go. If we could move up to slide 6, that would be helpful.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I was muted. The staff has corrected the problem.
Okay, good deal. We can move away to slide 6 and if slide 6, and then Commissioner, if you want to pick up there, that'd be great.
Well, there may be a delay on my end. I don't see slide 6, but I will go ahead and start with slide 6, which reads department metrics.
Sounds good.
Here we are. Thank you. We are shifting staff to capture more of these types of information now. For example, with program outcomes, what we've been doing in the past was capturing program outcomes at the end of the grant year when we needed to start preparing for our paper, which is an annual submission to HUD. We shifted staff now to capture that information monthly, and so we're implementing that process. Timeliness of expenditures surely remains somewhat of a stress for us. We do overcome some historical concerns, but again, we are proceeding. There will be a little bit more information on that particular metric shortly. Compliance, we have made great strides in this area because we've been able to assign staff specifically to this discipline, and that staff is able to focus and ensure that we continue making progress. Next slide. The next 2 slides are together. So one is just a graph of where we are as far as expenditures, and the next explains the timeliness of the expenditures. This slide has shifted and since the last update. You will find that the 4 primary programs are still listed: Aqua, Home, and ESP. And in the next column is the amount that has been awarded to date between 2017 and 2021 from HUD. Then the next column shows what's been drawn to date. The next column is the batch that remains to be drawn. The 5th column shows how much we've awarded to sub-grants. And then the last column shows the total number of projects that equate that number that's been awarded. It's important to note that as we are improving timeliness, we do continue to struggle with, not to struggle, we just continue to challenge with some of our historical obstacles. So we are working through those obstacles. Keep in mind that the chart reflects multiple award years for the various grants. The grant funds expire in different years, so in the next update, you'll see that the numbers have also changed. The column labeled balance to draw does not mean we have not awarded funds to subcontractors, or that we are processing, or that we are not processing reimbursement to the service providers. What it does mean is that we have not drawn these funds down from HUD and reimbursed the city. As I shared last time, and will remind everyone listening, the city pays reimbursement requests out of cash pool with general funds. And then the city draws down those funds and reimburses itself once we are able to substantiate that the funds we paid out were for eligible HUD grant activities. And at this point, I'm on the slide for these program outcomes for 2020. And this slide simply shows a few updates that we presented or included in our 2020 end of year report to HUD in our paper report. On slide 10, where it reads compliance, here are just a few updates since the last time I presented. Our special conditions for the HOPWA program have been ongoing for more than 2 years now, but those were placed upon us by HUD for the HOPWA program and required that we take certain very specific steps. And I'm really excited to announce that we have met and completed all but one special condition. And the only remaining special condition has to do with our secret master lease and repayment. We are actively resolving that final special condition and look forward to have no current special conditions for our HOPWA program. Because we have met all but one, the city has now regained access to drawing its own HOPWA funds direct. Other progress points include having revised our HOPWA policies and procedures and having had HUD to approve those policies and procedures. Excuse the typo on line 1 and special conditions. We've also revised our project sponsor manual and we have more than 100 people to attend that virtual training. We've revised our internal policies and procedures and that approved by HUD. We are continuing with internal professional development for staff, as well as providing services and training for our subrecipients. So at this point, I will pause for any questions. Members.
Thank you. Colleagues, my computer decided this would be a good time to install some updates. So I am been knocked off the system. Any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. But I'd like to ask, since it has been such a sticking point, getting the HOPWA recipients paid on time, can you elaborate on what the challenges and how you address them and correct? Because it's often my experience this term that many of these recipients go out being reimbursed, and a few of them, if they didn't other lines of income, they would probably out of it. I think it would be helpful to the public if you could, first elaborate what the issues have been and how you specifically address or make them to be more responsive.
Yes, sir. From a larger perspective, I can summarize that primarily our issues were, one, having an understanding of the policies and the procedures. Two, making certain that our project sponsors understood that the city was not asking for anything more than what we had to provide to HUD in order to draw down those funds. There was that miscommunication early on. Primarily what we see now, Council Member, is that we have difficulty in substantiating the funds that are being spent. So, for example, if project sponsor A submits a reimbursement to the city, and in the review of that reimbursement, the city determines that we don't have sufficient documentation to substantiate funds that have been spent, we request additional documentation. There has been a lot of back and forth that we have significantly reduced. That presentation that we did with our project sponsors on the project sponsor manual was one great step towards making sure we were all on the same page as to what's expected and the timeline. The timeline is the second primary concern. So the regs require us really to reimburse a lot faster than we do. The goal is 30 days. It's 30 days from the date that we receive all necessary supporting documentation. Many times we don't have the necessary supporting documentation, so there's a lot of back and forth, entirely too much back and forth. And internally, we have streamlined our processes. We continue to streamline our processes so that we can expedite the reimbursement for agencies. We are asking agencies to be careful and more diligent in what they are submitting so that they can assure us that they're submitting the appropriate documentation. And therefore, we don't have to go back and ask for more documentation. Prior to my arrival, I know that then Deputy COO Keene hired additional staff so that HOPWA could run more efficiently. That's been really helpful, having more eyes, more people to do the work. However, there's internal training and external training that's ongoing, and ultimately it will get the project sponsors where they need to be. I am really happy to announce that there's been a significant reduction in the amount of time it takes us to process reimbursements. I know we don't hear from those agencies, but I hear from them and their appreciation. We are working daily on expediting the reimbursement process for the other agencies. And council members, they tend to be our larger agencies with reimbursements of, they're really voluminous. Some of those reimbursements can be on the low end, 250 pages. Others are more than 1,000. And it does require that we look through almost every one of those pages.
So that being said, we're caught up on our HOPWA programs, correct?
No, sir. We are not caught up. We are not. We are caught up with some of our agencies, including some of those larger agencies, but we were many, many, many months behind. And with HOPWA, you have to reimburse in sequential order. So I can't skip to this month without having done last month. And, sir, if there's a problem with last month's reimbursement, it impacts every month thereafter. So, no, we are not caught up, but we are addressing all of the obstacles, all of the places that seem to further slow down the process. And we are, in fact, communicating with those agencies and asking for what we need in order to get past those points.
And just two more questions. What do you require more staff? Do you need more people to assist in making and getting and being on top of this?
We are in the process of hiring more staff, yes, sir.
Oh, well, that's good to know. And then lastly, you say that the city does the initial reimbursement, and then we ourselves try to get it reimbursed from us.
Yes, sir. That's why I apologize.
No, go ahead.
That's why it's even more important that we get that supporting documentation, because if we pay an agency without having the proper documentation to substantiate those funds, we will not be reimbursed. And so the city eats the loss. And ultimately, we are responsible for swiftly reimbursing our project sponsors, but we also have to protect our interests and make sure that we, too, can draw those funds down. Because we don't get the funds unless we're able to show HUD that they were properly expended.
How, just to close out, how you'll have your additional plates? How quickly?
I didn't hear a question, sir.
I'm sorry. How quickly it'll take you to get your additional staff in place?
HOPWA requires a very specific skill set, and we don't typically get people who have the skill set. So what happens is we take the best of the applicants and then we train them, and that does require more time than we have right now. So I can't put an exact amount of time on it. We've been working on it for a while, but we do have applicants, and that's hopeful.
How long is it? This will be the last. I'll withdraw. I mean, typically, how long does it take to train a person once they're hired? Or is it ongoing, like ongoing job training?
definitely ongoing. Continuing education is always helpful. But if we take someone who doesn't know the program, I would say a solid 30 days minimally, and honestly requires more. The problem and the challenge, not just for my department, but for most, is your training while still trying to maintain the day-to-day responsibilities. That's the challenge that we've not quite figured out.
Okay. Well, I'll withdraw, Mr. Chair. Thank you for answering.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to try communication number one more time before we move on to the second presentation. Mr. Mitchell, are you here?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, there we go.
There you go. Just 1 second. This is communication number one from Elizabeth Coyle, Chair of the Beltline Network, Inc., submitting the appointment of Mr. David Mitchell to serve on the Atlanta Beltline Tax Advisory District Advisory Committee for a term of 2 years. Mr. Mitchell, if you would take a moment to introduce yourself to the committee.
Yes, my name is David Joseph Mitchell. I'm the Executive Director of the Atlanta Preservation Center. I am a resident of Grant Park in District 1 and very proud of this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. If there are no questions or comments, Ms. Smith.
Move to approve.
Got a motion by Smith, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
It is. Mr. Brown, how would you like to vote? Mr. Hillis. Aye. Thank you. Mr. Brown, you there? All right. We're going to mark Mr. Brown as away. We're going to mark Mr. Hillis in the affirmative. That motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell.
You need anything else from me?
No, sir.
Enjoy the balance of your day. Thank you for your service. Bye-bye.
Likewise. Next up is our second presentation by the Center for Civic Innovation on their long-running review of our neighborhood planning units. CCI team, are you all present?
Yes, we are all here. We're on the same.
Okay, good deal. Welcome. If you take a moment to introduce yourself and we can move right into the presentation.
Okay, great. I will kick off. My name is Rohit Malhotra. I'm the Executive Director at the Center for Civic Innovation.
Hi, my name is Asile Patton. I'm the Civic Engagement Manager here at the Center for Civic Innovation.
And Kyle Kessler, the Policy and Research Director at the Center for Civic Innovation.
Nadia Gatweiler, Senior Director for Community Engagement.
There are four of us on the line right now. I will get us started by just saying thank you. This is our fourth presentation to the CDHS committee after 3 years. We are, over the course of the past 3 years, have embarked on an effort to review and take a look at the neighborhood planning unit system as a form of civic participation and engagement in our city. And so I wanted to, sorry?
On the next slide.
Yeah, so what I wanted to be able to do on this next slide is to give you a quick sense of, who we are and what it is that we are doing. So the Center for Civic Innovation we actually turned 7 on Sunday. We have been engaging with residents and communities in order to find solutions and policies to widening inequality in our city. And what the Npu Initiative has been is it is a comprehensive study and review of Atlanta's historic neighborhood planning unit system. We have worked with dozens of partners, an advisory board, a number of local grassroots organizations, and just hundreds of stakeholders that we have talked to over the course of the past 3 years in order to finally get to where we are today, which is we have established 14 recommendations that have come out of that have come out of our research and our review. A little bit about the process here. What we did across this initiative was to really look at a few different aspects of the neighborhood planning unit system. We started by looking at the purpose and the roles within that system, the power structures and dynamics that exist, the communication methods that exist, the structure of the processes, the roles and capacity, and we were able to look at each and every one of those things through a lens of effectiveness, of equity, of accountability, and of restoration. And so what we're excited to do today is actually go through, we will be publishing the entire list of final recommendations, which is the 14. We are combining a few of them and putting them together, but on Thursday, we will be publishing the final draft of this report that will go out into the world. But today we're going to be focusing on 3 of the recommendations that have been established that are most relevant and germane to the City Council. But I wanted to just thank those of you who have been involved in this process, whether it was 3 or 4 years ago when we actually had the conversation with some of y'all that this was an important thing for us to conduct, or whether we saw you in one of the previous meetings. Just grateful for your time, and I'm going to pass it over to Asile, who will be taking us through some of these recommendations.
Awesome. Thank you, Rohit. So as we advance to slide 3, wanted to give a little bit of an overview of, in addition to the CCI staff, some of the key members of our advisory board who have been a part of this process. Many of them are ranging from stakeholders within the city of Atlanta to stakeholders such as Debbie Skaczynski on the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board and other stakeholders that are involved in the neighborhood planning unit system either through its history or through its current function today. We have also consulted with Bunny Jackson Ransom and the late Leon Eplin, who is our first planning and budget commissioner through the NPU system. They have been really instrumental in these recommendations that we're going to be presenting today. And as we transition to slide 4, I'll give a little bit of an overview on the 3 major phases that have been a part of this process. The first phase of which was mainly building relationships with the people who are within the NPU system, people who may not know what the NPUs are, etc., and really starting from the beginning to co-design what this NPU initiative should look like and what people want to see out of the NPU initiative and our major goals. From there, we did the work of collecting the data and analyzing a lot of data through this process, and we are really excited to be publishing the recommendations on Thursday that have been co-designed in conjunction with the aforementioned advisory board, as well as a growing group of stakeholders who are interested in making sure that the NPU system lives to its fullest potential. I will pass it to Kyle Kessler, who will go through slide 5 and give a little bit more of an overview on the data and sources that we have been able to receive.
Thanks. On slide 5, we go a little bit more in depth on who we've spoken to throughout this process, the various meetings and conversations we've had. We've done in-depth interviews, one-on-one or small group with over 60 different stakeholders. That included city council members, NPU leaders, folks who presented in NPU meetings, folks who have a variety of different perspectives on the system. We had an online public survey that had over 1,000 total responses, 600 responses got all the way through to the end, so it's got complete data on those. We went to the Atlanta History Center, to the Atlanta University Center Archives, to the Georgia State Archives, to take a look at the information that those rich academic resources had available as well. We did a tour of all 25 NPUs pre-pandemic, and then there's been continued engagement online meetings as well. We were able to pull together a list of recommendations dating back about 10 years from the NPUs to various phases, the Board of Zoning Adjustment, the Zoning Review Board, and the License Review Board. And then we've had a series of working sessions and idea sessions, both pre-pandemic and person at our facilities, and then afterwards online as well. If we can move on to slide 6. So in addition to the 4 previous presentations that we have given to this body, we have held a series of engagement sessions more recently to help share the draft recommendations we'll be sharing with you in just a minute. That includes a presentation to the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, ongoing conversations with our advisory board. We did have a presentation to Commissioner Tim Keene and Deputy COO John Keene. We received feedback from them as well as the NPU team. Lee LaRue as Assistant Director of the NPU team. We held larger session with addition to our advisory board with a coalition of partners that are interested in helping put forward these recommendations and support them going forward. We're presenting to you today, and as mentioned previously, this coming Thursday, we will be giving a public presentation of these recommendations. I will now pass it back to Kyle.
Awesome. Thank you, Kyle. So we will transition through slide 7 and give a little bit of a level set for the recommendations themselves. Before we get into the recommendations, one final note on slide 8 as we transition there is when we're referring to recommendations for the NPU system, we are not exclusively talking about the NPUs themselves. The NPU system, the way that we see it, ranges everywhere from all executive, legislative, and judicial branches through the state of Georgia, the city of Atlanta, all of the implicated bases, including the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, all the way to residents, property owners, and organizational representatives. In addition to that, we are viewing the NPU system related to the documents that codify the NPU system in various ways, whether that's through the Code of Ordinances, bylaws, small area plans, and the Comprehensive Development Plan. So this is just a level set on when we're talking about the NPU system, these will not be recommendations for one exclusive party, and they are comprehensive for the NPU system as a whole. I will now transition us to slide 9, where we'll give an executive summary of the recommendations that we have at the moment. Currently, we are at 14 recommendations, and we're continuing to do some consolidation work as we prepare for Thursday. And a couple of notes on the recommendations themselves. One, each recommendation, we have assigned a lead stakeholder group who will be in charge of implementing these recommendations as the primary driver, as well as some partners that'll be very important to making sure that these recommendations are as successful as possible. For the purposes of today's brevity and conversation, we'll be focusing on the first 3 recommendations because we think that those are very foundational to the rest of the recommendations being successful. So with that, I will transition us to recommendation number 1 on slide 10. So the first recommendation that we are proposing is to align on the purposes and goals of the NPU system, including neighborhood organizations and the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, so that all stakeholders within the system can perform their roles effectively within it. We see this as a very executive level recommendation, so we have implicated the mayor as well as city council on this as well, making sure that we're able to partner with NPUs themselves, the Atlanta Planning Advisory Board, DCP, et cetera. And a couple of ideas on how this can be implemented is to schedule a series of community engagement activities to understand what the purpose of the NPU system is from the people who are part of it. As we transition to slide 11, some of the example data that we've been able to pull together is what the Code of Ordinances says the purpose of the NPU system is. In 1974, this was implicated as city plans being responsive to the needs and concerns of citizens, and a plan which allows for diversified and responsive involvement being developed for the scope of the Atlanta City Charter. Since then, the ordinance was updated in 1979 and has not been changed since then. And the purpose of the NPUs defined by this is to provide input into the CDP, as well as to provide a means by which information concerning city government is provided to citizens of Atlanta. This is what grounded us in making sure that we are consistently able to align on the purposes of the NPU system. And I will pass it back to Kyle, who will go through slide 12 and give a little bit more in-depth data for our presentation.
Thanks, Kyle. On slide 12, we're showing an organizational chart for the state of Atlanta back in 1976, so shortly after the NPU system was fully implemented. And you'll see there at the top of the chart that the Department of Budget and Planning, which was a combined department back then, we didn't have separate budget and planning functions, they were combined, is at the very highest level of the city's organization, up with the mayor and the chief administrative officer, which later will become the COO position. So that's where the NPUs were sitting under the Department of Budget and Planning, able to weigh in and give advice and help with planning and budgeting across all city departments. So rather than being down with other line departments such as public safety, environment and streets, which would be transportation these days, all those activities were up under the purview of the NPUs, which sat up at the highest level with the mayor. On the next slide, which is slide 13, from the 600 plus response survey we got, one of the questions we asked is what the main purpose people thought the NPU system was. We got a variety of different responses, and we were able to ask people what they thought the main purpose was, what the first purpose was, the second purpose, and the third purpose. So you can see here that there is a variety of difference of opinion. We also asked questions of stakeholders in interviews. We're happy to share that. We will be doing more of that in our full report and the presentation on Thursday. But for the sake of brevity, just wanted to share what we what results we received from our survey. On the next slide, slide 14, we also showed, in addition to a misalignment on purpose, there's sometimes misalignment on the roles of the NPU. So one particular role that both NPU system participants as well as the city are involved in is the role of the NPU planner. So this slide shows we asked both planners and NPU leaders what they thought the role of the planner was. We got a difference of opinion between the two. Sometimes there are more in alignment on what they think that role is together, but there is often situations where one party sees that role differently than another. Now I'll pass it back to Style on slide 15 to talk about recommendation number 2.
Thank you, Kyle. So after we have aligned on the purposes and goals of the NPU system, the second recommendation that we are proposing is to maintain an agreed upon, reciprocal, and comprehensive evaluation system to make sure that we're evaluating whether the system is achieving effectiveness and equity, and for all stakeholders to be involved in that on a regular basis. Ultimately, we've implicated the Department of City Planning here as the lead in making sure that in this maintenance of the comprehensive evaluation system, we're determining what metrics need to be tracked and the regularity of that as we're evaluating it on a regular basis. As we transition to slide 16, an example data point that we have pulled together here is a 2-column slide where we see on the left recent proposals to evaluate or enhance the NPU system, ranging from the 2017 Atlanta City Design to the 2018 CDHS Goals and Objectives to the 2020 ordinance introduced by Councilmember Antonio Brown. Despite these recent plans to evaluate the system has not been formally studied or reviewed since 1978. And of course through DCI's Npu Initiative this year. In addition to that, one note to mention is there was a national study on 51 neighborhood planning programs, and the city of Atlanta was a part of that, but that was not a direct evaluation of Atlanta's NPU system. In making sure that we are aligned on the purposes and goals, we also need to make sure that after we're aligned, we're getting there and doing that in an effective way, which is why this recommendation is to make sure that we're maintaining a comprehensive evaluation system on a regular basis. I will pass it back to Kyle to go through recommendation number 3 on slide 17.
Thanks, Kyle. On slide 17, we're showing the third recommendation, which is to increase funding both for personnel as well as other resources for the Department of City Planning and the NPU team. So what we've seen over time is that the amount of funding, and particularly the amount of personnel, has greatly shifted over time. So if you transition into slide 18, it shows just 3 snapshots of what the staffing levels for folks dedicated to the NPU team have looked like. So back in 1976, once again, just as the NPU system was really getting its wings underneath it, the department had 18 full-time dedicated staff people, in part thanks to some federal funding, that were responsible for neighborhood planning unit coordination as well as the development of the comprehensive development plan. That was all under Mayor Jackson's term, but towards the end of his second term, we were heading into a budget crisis and some of the federal funding started to go away. So by the start of Andrew Young's term in office, his first term, staff got cut down to just 2, a neighborhood planning unit coordinator as well as an assistant. That staffing level of 2 persisted up until Mayor Jackson came back for his third term. And at that point, the role of the NPU planner was reintroduced, which had gone away before since the staff was just down to 2, but allowing other people in the Department of City Planning to have at least minimal connection to the NPUs at meetings to help process what we discussed before, that potentially unclear role of the NPU planner at the beginning. So currently, based upon funding levels and the budget for fiscal year 2022 that was recently passed, the NPU team has a dedicated support staff of 5. One position is currently vacant, as well as that continuing role of other people in the planning department able to assist in the role of the NPU planner. You can see on the right just 2 quotes over 2 different periods of time in the top right-hand corner. Back from 1985, when we were in that period where there was just 2 dedicated staff, it was an issue of equity, that NPUs that had other resources could get things accomplished because they could rely upon private support from their own personal connections and networks. And those that didn't have that connection were dependent on the city, and the city wasn't providing much in the way of resources. That's related back in the comment on the lower right-hand corner as well from one of our interviews that we conducted, where it's difficult for NPUs to do some of the basic things they want to accomplish because there's either not the technical support, the financial support, or the human capacity support to get those things accomplished. So I will pass it back to Asile to review all of our recommendations on slide 19.
Awesome. So just to close before we open the floor for questions and thoughts, this is a summary of the 14 recommendations that we will be consolidating to present on Thursday. Today we have only focused on the first three because we think that these are really foundational to the success of the rest of the recommendations moving forward. On Thursday we'll be hosting a virtual event at 4 o'clock and want to make sure that everyone is able to participate in that as well. We're really excited to be publishing the report with some more of our key findings and data points over the extensive 3 years of our research. So with that, thank you all for your time and welcome to any questions or thoughts.
Thank you all for your presentation, all the work that you put in over the last many months, and a considerable number of conversations and data synthesis. I'm going to hand it off first to Councilmember Hillis, and then to anyone else with questions or comments. You there, Councilmember Hillis? You might be muted. Any other colleagues while we figure out the technical issue with Mr. Hillis?
I was on mute. There we go.
All good. Go for it.
Thank you, Chairman Westmoreland. Thank you for this presentation on our NPU system. I remember this thing getting introduced back when my first in the CDHS 3 years ago. And one of the items that I brought up, I believe, when we had our first discussion about it was how different the NPUs are in area, but also, and more importantly, the number of residents that reside within them. We have some NPUs that are, I believe, 30,000 plus people. We have other NPUs that are 3,000 people or less. See lower participation. And that was one of the things that I brought up, and I thought that I was told that was going to be looked into, but didn't see anything in the presentation. So I wanted your feedback as to if that's something y'all studied, what the findings were, or if and if why not, or wasn't a recommendation made on that.
Thanks, Councilman. This is Kyle Kessler. We have taken a look at that. It is a question that's come up in various ways from different stakeholders throughout our process. We have researched. We have found the original criteria that were approved by the City Council back in 1974 and 1975 prior to the maps being drawn. Those did include total population ranges as well as some other criteria. We're happy to share that information. We will include that as part of our findings from this research that we'll share on Thursday. But from what the conversations we've had so far is that unless some of these other things are taken care of, unless we align on some of the purposes, we understand what some of those criteria were from the other days. And if we want to carry on with that same sort of basis, to go ahead and say that we need to change them, it's challenging. Also, with the census data just now coming out, we'll hopefully have a better understanding of what the new population numbers are, where things might want to shift. But also understand what other geographic criteria, socioeconomic criteria also play into this, besides just a raw population number. But we are more than happy to share the criteria that were developed before and open a discussion on whether or not those criteria should be reaffirmed by this council, should be amended by this council. If Department of City Planning wants to review those as well. But we think that's sort of a starting point for discussion now rather than a full-fledged recommendation that should be changed at this point.
Thanks, Kyle, for that feedback. And again, this is on my radar well before being on the council. As I knew even before that District 9 actually has more NPUs than any other council district at 7. Only 2 of them are fully within District 9. And as you mentioned, the lines have not been redrawn since implemented. So that's something that definitely appreciate your feedback on, and we'll definitely want to look into further and have those discussions as we move forward. As we start talking about our council district redistricting. So thank you. for your feedback.
Thank you for the question.
Any other questions or comments?
This is Smith. I just wanted to thank them because they started on this several years ago. I know they put a lot of hard work into it. I've talked to them, gone to some of their meetings, and I just wanted to just say a quick thank you. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith.
This is Councilmember Shepherd. I've been reading over it, and I think where we are now is a little bit more comprehensive than we were several years ago. I'm glad we took the time to do what we did, what y'all are doing. I think also what has helped tremendously is the fact that in the plan department, I'm going to give some kudos to Ms. Lena LaRue and her staff of 4, I believe, in the plan department in terms of how they've actually moved the NPU to another level in terms of education and really getting the NPUs and APAB and folks into really all the curriculums they have in terms of training, all of that. I think that's been very helpful. And I think the recommendations, you talked about the fact that at one point when the choice started in 1978, it was about 18 people. Now it's down to 4. It used to be 2. So I do think there's room for improvements in terms of that. I would also say that as we go through this, the classes they're having are great, like I said, on so many levels. I would suggest also as we move forward, as a city, one of the things also as a council member, I'm continuing basically when we go to NPU meetings, because we are very rare in terms of empathy across other metro Atlanta. I think a lot of folks don't have this whole process because the city is very unique in terms of that, and it's great that Mayor Jackson saw the vision to do this years ago. But what has happened in my mind sometimes is that when we have NPU meetings, a lot of times assumptions are made that the city does everything, even in terms of, you named it, some of the things that people potentially ask us are not even under the purview of the city. They are under the purview of the state. There are problems in terms of highways, expressways, and VDOT, Fulton County. And what I find great is that our structure in terms of the city is absolutely great in terms of, doing a lot to educate citizens on this is the structure of Atlanta. So what we're not good at is saying, by the way, and I don't know if we can pull that into the NPU process, which is the neighborhood planning unit, but some type of way pulling in the other government entities. Because I think if I were to do a test now and ask folks, well, what does Fulton County do? We pay our taxes for Fulton County. And how do we hold Fulton County accountable for what they do? Or do we even know what they do? And most of the time, people out in our community are asking things. I'm like, that's the county, that's not the city. I used to not say that, but now I'm just saying, that's not from the purview of the city, that's the county. That's not from the purview of the state. A lot of times they even ask people who are their representatives and they don't know. I think that we have done a very successful job in terms of the NPU process of really entrenching our residents, and we need to do more as y'all talking about. But also, I would like to be inclusive and see if we can bring in some funding, as we talk about funding and implementation, if we can make this something that would be a little bit more open, that the county would get involved and the state in terms of educating our residents. Charters, I see you having this in terms of charters, purview. Case in point, people always say in terms of mental illness and homelessness and a lot of different things. And the city should be doing this and that and the other. But we know from deliberating several times in conversations that mental illness and funding and stuff comes from the county and the state. But no one in the city residents don't understand that. So they always say the city is not doing this, the city is not doing that. So at some point, as we're going through this upgrading into the system, I would like you all to take that into consideration also, is that a lot of the things that we are dealing with is great in educating, zoning, all the things we do, but there is so much more layers of things that citizens need to know about and who to begin to interact with and hold accountable for a lot of things. And so many meetings, people are asking me to do so many things, and I'm like, but that's not under my purview. And then they'll say, well, we can't get anything from the state. And they ask us to reach out to the state or to the county. And so I'm just saying that as y'all look at this process, I think it's good that you are doing a good vetting. After so many years, it has not been ever contemplated before, but I just see an opportunity for us to really make it very comprehensive. Thank you for what y'all done. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bishop. We echo a lot of those same sentiments. It has been both a blessing and somewhat of a challenge to have Leo LaRue and her team working at the same time as we're making this happen, because the numbers keep changing. The staffing has increased. Into university training has started to happen. NPUs have been supported online during the pandemic. So there's lots of things that maybe would have been clear recommendations back in 2018, 2019 that have already been implemented or already in progress and folks are taking advantage of. So we appreciate the work that the Department of City Planning has already done. We appreciate the conversation we had with the commissioner, with the planning staff. We did interview each of the NPU team members as well as many of the planners. So this clearly is a joint effort. It's not just council, just the mayor, just NPUs. There are a variety of stakeholders. And the reason, to your second point, that we included that broader NPU system map is that there are so many other agencies that are dependent on the NPU system for their community engagement, because the county does not have a similar system. MARTA doesn't have a similar system, that they are often using the existing meetings and existing structures that the city has put into place to allow state representatives to have conversations, to have our utility companies have conversations with residents across the city. So it is pretty special what we have. And if we can get other folks to help support the funding, that'd be great. But we did want to bring people's attention to the back in 1970s when we had 18 staff members, that was dependent upon funding outside the city. There was federal funding that was helping to make that happen. So maybe the previous presenter who's working on grant applications, maybe she can put in a good request for the federal government to use some money to make sure we have the adequate staffing to do what folks are wanting the NPU system to do today and beyond.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Shepard. Anyone else? I've got a couple of my own. Okay. Back on slide 6, one of the recent engagement dates referenced a conversation with the COO and the commissioner of the Department of City Planning and the NPU team meetings. Can you talk a little bit about how that conversation went and what, if any, next steps were potentially discussed other than the 3 succeeding bullet points on that slide?
Yeah, I'll take that, Matt. This is Brian. Councilmember Westmoreland. Excuse me, Councilmember Westmoreland. Apologies.
No, Matt's fine. I've been called worse.
We had a great conversation with the commissioner and with the COO, John Keene. What we did was we went through a much longer version of this specific thing. The report itself, which is still in commission right now, is figuring to be pretty long, 40 to 50 pages of dense content, followed by hundreds of pages of addendums and other references. So we were able to nerd out about kind of some of the specifics of the recommendation. The overwhelming response after we went through it was Commissioner Keene's response was, yes, all of these things are true and appreciated. How do we also recognize the history of the NPU system, meaning, the things that maybe the challenges that we are facing today in planning that have been a part of the NPU's, own challenges, like how that has contributed to maybe challenges or negligence in planning. So we talked a little bit about the history and making sure that this report and presentation was not just a glorification of a historic system, but also an opportunity to get into the details about the challenges within that system and things that, frankly, are worth the discussion of whether they need to continue or not as practices, which are out of the purview of the Center for Civic Innovation, but certainly things that we call attention to. What John Keene really focused on and spoke about for us was this sounds great, but how are we going to pay for it? So I think a lot of it was around thinking about this and practical application of the budgeting process and the cross-departmental implications that something like this would have. And so we really were able to get into the weeds because there was alignment on the recommendations as a whole, and y'all will be able to do the same after we were able to publish the final report. But overall, there was overwhelming support. What we said to them, the intention of that meeting for us was to, before the end of this year, to gain alignment from the Office of the Mayor and also from Council and from APAB, and to see if there is an opportunity to actually push some of these things forward, or at least make something beyond just general commitments, so that this work is not just something that gets filed into a drawer, but instead is something that is followed up with actual commitment and accountability moving forward. So that's kind of the summation of what was close to an hour and a half to 2 hour conversation.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll offer myself the next time it's time to convene that group, and once your final report comes out, to figure out some tangible next steps that both the mayor's office and this committee can work, and the planning department can work in concert with, so that we can help these recommendations become reality. And then my last question, I think, is down at recommendation number 14. There have been several times over the last 18 months that we have talked about the value that being virtual has brought as it relates to more people being present for NPU meetings than they might have been the case in the past. I'm curious what other potential meeting or organizational structures or restructuring you all have in mind to consider.
Absolutely, and this is Asile speaking. A couple of the ideas that have come through this, and again, thinking about this anchored in relation to making sure that the NP team and the Department of City Planning has the resources and personnel to be able to facilitate these organizational changes, such as potentially hybrid meetings as they arise over the course of the next couple of years. Another example of new organizational structures that we were able to have the privilege to see during the course of our Npu Initiative tour was an example of an NPU where, rather than having the litany of presentations at NPU meetings that could range anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half, depending on the meeting, this NPU took the initiative to create more of an open house structure, for example, where the people who were presenting, such as an entity like ourselves, would have a 30-minute opportunity ahead of the meeting for residents to directly engage with those key stakeholders on questions that they had, making it a little bit more of an effective meeting for carving out time for the voting matters or the deeper conversations that needed to happen on the actual agenda. Other examples of this that have come through that we were able to see were things like consent agendas, depending on the amount of applications that an NPU may have in a given month. And other examples where, based on, again, aligning on the purpose and intentions of the NPU system, how can we make sure that the NPU meetings are actually achieving those goals? In what ways can we adjust even something as simple as having timestamps on NPU agendas, so that way people are aware of when they can come in and step out depending on their availability. And some example ideas to make sure that we're able to effectively achieve the system's purposes that we are all able to align.
Good deal. All right, colleagues, any other parting questions or comments? All right, thanks, CCI team. Excellent work. Let me know how I can help keep moving it forward in the future.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up is the consent agenda and the ordinances for first read. Miss Linda, would you sound those, please?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 1, 21-06-83. This is CDP 21-031. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1818 Lakewood Avenue Southeast from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. NPUY Council District 1. Item number 8 is 21-06-85. This is CDP. I'm sorry, I skipped one. This is Item number 7 is 21-0684. This is CDP 2134. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 3393 Jonesboro Road from single-family land use designation to the industrial land use designation and for other purposes, NPUZ, Council District 12. Number 8 is 21-0685. This is CDP 2135. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 3626 Peachtree Road Northeast from the low-density residential land use designation to the high-density commercial land use designation and 3715 and 3693 Waika Road Northeast and 3714 and 3706 Peachtree Dunwoody Road and parcel number listed herein from the single-family residential land use designation to the high-density commercial land use designation and for other purposes, NPUV, Council District 7. Item number 9 is 21-0686. This is CDP 2136. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1111 High Tower Road Northwest, 0 High Tower Road, parcel number listed herein, 0 North High Tower Road, parcel listed herein, from the single-family residential land use designation to the mixed-use low-density land use designation and for other purposes, NPUG, Council District 9. Item number 10 is 21-0687. This is CDP 21-0424. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1101 Church Street Northwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density land use designation and for other purposes, NPUK, Council District 3. Item number 11 is 21-0689, CDP 2146. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 559, 565, and 569 10th Street Northwest and 997 Curran Street Northwest from the low-density residential 0 to 8 units per acre land use designation to the mixed-use medium-density land use designation and for other purposes, NPUE, Council District 3. Item number 12 is 21-0690. This is CDP 2148. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1064 Oglethorpe Avenue Southwest from the low-density residential land use designation to the medium-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. This is NPUT, Council District 4.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, on to our regular agenda. Why don't we take items 13, 14, and 16 as a block?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Item number 13 is 21-0344. This is CDP 2122. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate a portion of the property at 1295 Marietta Boulevard, parcel number listed herein, from the Transportation, Communications, and Utilities land use designation to the mixed-use land use designation and for other purposes. This is NPUZ, Council District 9. Item number 14 is 21-0669. This is CDP 2140. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to adopt a LITA 5-point mobility plan to amend the 2016 Comprehensive Development Plan by incorporating by reference said plan and for other purposes. This is NPUN, Council District 2. Item number 16 is 21-0671. This is CDP 2149. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee adopting the 2021 City of Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan as the official comprehensive development plan for the City of Atlanta, Georgia, in compliance with requirements of Georgia Planning Act of 1989 and for other purposes.
Good deal. I'll make a motion to hold all of those items for the third quarter CDP hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Westmoreland, a second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Yay.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, are you there? All right, we can mark Mr. Brown away for the remainder of the meeting, it sounds like.
The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Those items are held. Can we make sure Ms. Shepard is listed as a yay?
She is, Mr. Chair.
Okay, good deal. Back to number 15.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's 210-0670. This is CDP 2141. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to adopt the Neighborhood Plan in UG Community Master Plan Update to amend the 2016 Comprehensive Development Plan by incorporating by reference said plan and for other purposes. This is NPUG, Council District 9.
All right, I'll make a motion to amend to update the master plan. Mr. Hillis, you want to second that? Okay, got a motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Shepard?
I got it.
Yep. Good deal. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. I will now make a motion to hold for the third quarter CDP hearing. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
All right, 5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is also held. On to number 17.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's 210-0672. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to adopt the 2022 to 2026 capital improvements element, which includes capital improvements that the city intends to fund in whole or in part with the development impact fees in compliance with requirements of the Georgia Development Impact Fee and for other purposes.
All right, I believe the staff request on this one is also to hold, and so I will make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Hillis. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
Vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, item number 18. This is 210-0673. This is an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee waiving the requirements of Chapter 2, Article 9, Division 1, Section 2-910 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Atlanta, Georgia, and authorizing the mayor or designate, including the Commissioner of the Department of City Planning, to apply for a Livable Centers Initiative grant from the Atlanta Regional Commission in an amount not to exceed $1,200,000 in order to complete preliminary engineering for the Peachtree Street Shared Space project and for other purposes.
All right, any questions or comments for Commissioner Keene?
Move approval.
All right, motion by Smith, which I will second.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is number 19, which is 210-0674. It's an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee to authorize the use of impact fees collected from 1260 Foster Street Northwest for certain transportation projects in conformance with ordinance number 08-01757 and for other purposes.
All right, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, that item is favorable. I will now make a motion to refer to the Transportation Committee. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays, that item is referred. Item number 20.
Item 20 is 21-0675. This is ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizes the mayor or designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute all appropriate documents granting a utility easement of 875 square feet across the real property known as Zero Bankhead Highway, Atlanta land lots 261 and 267 of District 17 of Fulton County, Georgia, also known as English Park, to the Georgia Power Company for the purposes of installing underground power distribution facilities upon payment of $26,500, waiving Real Estate and Procurement Code Article 10, Subdivision 3, Sections 2-1571 and 2-1572 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to forward with no recommendation to the Finance Executive Committee. That's where this needs to go. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. The vote is closed.
All right, 5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is forwarded with no rep to Finance Exec. Item number 21.
21 is 21-0696. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Carlos Smith to ratify Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms' executive order lifting the moratorium on the acceptance of applications for permits or sub-permits for or relating to outdoor events governed by Chapter 142 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, at which the attendance is anticipated to be 50,000 persons or more, requiring that all events governed by Chapter 142 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances may only occur in accordance with certain prescribed COVID-19 mitigation requirements, and lifting the moratorium on the acceptance of new applications by the City of Atlanta Police Department for special events governed by Chapter 10, Article 2, Division 3 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances and for other purposes.
Yes, move approval.
Motion by Smith to approve, which I will second. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond.
Aye.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 21-0698. This is an ordinance by Councilmember Andrew Boone authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to amend the fiscal year 2022 CARES Act fund budget by adding 2 anticipations and appropriations in the amount of $12,070,911.50 awarded to the city pursuant to the Emergency Rental Assistance Program
2 from the U.S. Treasury. The total amount which shall be utilized to respond to the public health emergency with respect to COVID-19 by providing emergency rental assistance to residents of the City of Atlanta and for other purposes.
All right, Deputy COO Burks, would you speak to this item, please?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the CDHS committee. So the agenda item before you is, as many of you probably know, we received over $12 million for a second round of emergency relief assistance from the U.S. Treasury Department. You actually have 2 agenda items before you. One is to accept the appropriations from the U.S. Treasury Department, and the second agenda item is to do a contract amendment number 2 to United Way to administer those dollars. I can tell you, as you may remember, we received $22 million from the Coronavirus Relief Fund that we awarded to United Way for emergency relief assistance, where we were able to assist 6,000 families. We are currently in ERA 1 with United Way that you all approved several months ago at $15.2 million. To date, we have helped 1,955 families with $10.6 million of that funding. So today, the request is before you for the second emergency relief assistance funding from United Way of $12 million, of which we have received 40%, and we would like to move forward with awarding that to United Way as well to administer on behalf of the City of Atlanta. And I'm open for any questions that you all may have.
Move approval, Smith.
Got a motion by Smith, which I will second. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go for it, Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Deputy CEO, for your presentation. There's some questions. How many families have we actually been able to help during the pandemic with these funds?
So far, thank you for the question, Councilmember Bond. So between the coronavirus relief funding and the first emergency relief assistance that we received from the U.S. Treasury, we have assisted right at 7,955 families, and that is as of Monday of this week.
What is the number or email or the source that we can refer families to that need assistance?
So at this time, of course, United Way is handling this for us because of the overload of applications that we have that they are currently reviewing. The online application is not open at this time. We are expecting for it to be open as soon as we get this new round of funding allocated to them within the next week and a half or 2 weeks. But I can tell you that we are also a part of a consortium with the state of Georgia, where they are in the process of starting to open up their application system statewide, whereas before they were only assisting families of cities and counties that did not receive direct assistance. So I will certainly keep you all updated on when the state opens their statewide application as well.
Please, when the $12 million is in place, please notify us so that we can share with our constituents.
We most definitely will.
I yield, Mr.
I have a question. We're talking about this. Is this the paper that puts the money in place? So once we pass it, then this will be the money, and so we'll give it to United Way, and then they'll open up the registration?
Yes, Councilmember Smith. So this paper actually, the first paper that you're looking at now actually receives the funding, allows the city to receive the funding from the U.S. Treasury Department. The next paper on that you will see regarding emergency relief assistance actually allows us to go into amendment number 2 with United Way for this funding.
Okay. So this paper accepts the money from the U.S. Treasury, and then the next paper allows us to give it to United Way.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
questions?
Oh, yeah, Commissioner, go for it.
Where are we with the moratorium with the freedom on?
Sure. So, Councilmember Shepherd, we still have the eviction moratorium in place. As you may remember, we reissued it at the end of July. And what the eviction moratorium currently does, and we make sure that everybody understands it, it actually puts the moratorium on properties that the city owns or has had direct investment in, as well as Invest Atlanta and Beltline. So it's not all properties in the city of Atlanta, but it is definitely those where there's city funding from the city itself, Beltline, or Invest Atlanta. So that will stay in place as long as the mayor's emergency order is in place.
Okay. Now, and there was some questions in earlier reference to United Way and the administration of the funding. And I just heard you say that right now they are not taking applications. Apparently they're backed up. But how are we doing in terms of them actually allocating this money out to them? How is it working?
So it's actually going well. So there are a couple of things. When you compare us to some other cities around the U.S., we have done exceptionally well. So I will give you an example. Of the $15.2 million that you all awarded to United Way under previous legislation for ER, Emergency Rental Assistance 1, if we want to call it that, $10.6 million as of Monday of that has already been awarded to families. And we still have right at 1,400 applications pending that United Way is reviewing. So we are moving swiftly with that 15.2. Which is why we want to move ahead with that 12.0 so that there's not a huge gap in service between the time that we have awarded the money to United Way and they finish the ERA1 funding. So we are on track to expend the entire 15.2 within the next month.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Move approval, Smith.
I think we've got a motion on the floor and a second from Matt and Smith and Westmoreland. So you go ahead and open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Oh, no, but that's fine. There we go.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 210699. Mr. Chair, we do have an amendment that changes the caption. So if I can have a motion, it will change the amount in the caption. Can I have a motion to bring the amendment forward?
Yep, motion to amend Westmoreland. Is there a second? Second. Second. Bond, please open that vote.
The vote is open. One moment. The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
All right.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is amended. So you go ahead and read the caption.
Mr. Chair, this is an ordinance by Councilmember Andrew Boone as amended by the Community Development and Human Services Committee, authorizing the Chief Financial Officer or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to transfer the total expenditure amount between fund sources HOPWA, CDBG, and Home in an amount not to exceed $477,082.25 from the CDBG, HOPWA, and Home grant accounts to the Department of Grants and Community Development general fund accounts to satisfy disallowed costs from expired CDBG, HOPWA, and Home contracts within the Grants and Community Development Department and for other purposes.
Move approval, Smith.
Okay, we got motion by Smith, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable as amended. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is 21-0700. Mr. Chair, this also has amendment which changes the amount in the caption. So if I can have a motion to bring that amendment forward.
So moved. There we go. Motion by Bond, which I will second.
The vote is open. The vote's closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. He will read the caption.
Mr. Chair, this is an ordinance by Councilmember Andrell Boone as amended by Community Development and Human Services Committee, authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into Amendment Number 2 of Agreement Number listed herein for the COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program Administration Services Agreement with United Way of Greater Atlanta Incorporated on behalf of the executive offices to extend the term through January 31st, 2022, and to add funding for continued emergency rental assistance to residents of the City of Atlanta to be funded by the U.S. Department of Treasury Emergency Rental Assistance Funds in an amount not to exceed $12,030,172.67 and for other purposes.
Move approval, Smith.
All right, we've got a motion from Councilmember Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Smith, second by Bond. 2 questions for Ms. Burks before we take action. One is technical. The paper we adopted earlier is for us to accept $12,070,911, and this is for $11,799,000. And I'm curious about the difference.
Okay, so the substitute should have brought it up to 12 million, but not the exact amount. The remaining dollars is for compliance.
Okay. Ms. Linda,
Yes, Mr. Chair, we just read the amendment. That was the change, yes.
All right, that's my first question. And then my second, Ms. Burks, as we move into phase 3 of our engagement with United Way, would you talk a little bit about how that continues to evolve and hopefully improve with this next set of $12 million?
Sure. So one of the things that we saw with our engagement with United Way, after we expended the funding from the Coronavirus Relief Fund and began with ERA1, is a new software system called Apricot. And this system is actually one that a lot of cities and counties around the U.S. are using, as it is pretty much designed for programs such as rental assistance programs, small business loan assistance programs, and things of that nature. So it has proven to make the process, from what I can tell based on our evaluation of it, a lot smoother and move things along a lot faster. I can say that the other piece is that in the instance of ERA1, we met with our compliance team before they started the funding and laid out the guidelines that we were looking for. So I think that was an added plus as well. In addition, United Way went from 22 nonprofits helping to assist with this to 8 nonprofits. So, of course, it is much easier for them to manage 8 nonprofits than it is 22. And then we also have one nonprofit that's very specific to non-English speaking residents. And so that as well has helped us in a great way assist our immigrant population. So I feel as if we have made great strides. Is it perfect? No. Is it much better than it was before? Absolutely, yes. So I feel much better about the new system that we have in place and beginning our compliance at the front end of a program versus in the middle.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from colleagues? All right, we have a motion by Smith and a second by Bond. You can go ahead and open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, this item as well as item number 22 are due referrals, so they will be going to the Finance Executive Committee.
That is good to know. Thank you. Item number 25.
This is 210-0707. This is CDP 2154. This is ordinance by Councilmember Dustin R. Hillis to amend the land use element of the 2016 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1258, 1262, 1264, and 1287 Donald Lee Hallowell Parkway Northwest and 593 and 605 Anthony Street Northwest from the open space land use designation to the mixed use land use designation and for other purposes. This is in NPUJ, Council District 9.
I'll make a motion to hold for the fourth quarter CDP hearing. Second, Hillis. Motion by Westmoreland. Sorry, Councilman Hillis. Second by Hillis. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond.
Aye.
Thank you.
Vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is held. Next, item 26.
Item 21R, 3865. This is a resolution by Councilmember Andre Dickens authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to accept a donation of enhancements and site improvements as outlined in Exhibit A, valued at $65,000 from the Atlanta Hawks Foundation for Cone Park, located at 1530 Woodbine Avenue Southeast in Atlanta, Georgia, 30317, for the purpose of improving the park and for other purposes.
Move approval, Smith.
Motion by Smith, which I will second. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Bond.
Aye.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Next item.
Next item, Mr. Chair, is number 27, 21R, 3866. That's a resolution by Council Members Joyce M. Shepherd and Cleta Winslow authorizing the mayor or a designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to accept a donation from Savannah College of Art and Design to the Department of Parks and Recreation of improvements valued at approximately $47,850, which will include refurbishing backboards, repainting courts and court lines, and other repairs at Arthur Langford Jr. Park, located at 2011 Thornton Road, Southwest Atlanta, 30315, and for other purposes. And Mr. Chair, we do have an amendment to attach the exhibits, which is the scope of work and some sample artwork.
Motion to amend. Is there a second?
Second, Shepherd.
Thank you. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Shepherd.
The vote is open.
Mr. Bond. Mr. Bond. All right, let's mark Mr. Bond as away and close that vote. 4 yeas, 0 nays. The item amended. Ms. Shepherd.
Oh, I'm an aye.
Okay, thank you. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is amended. Ms. Shepherd.
Motion to approve is amended.
Got a motion from Ms. Shepherd, which I will second. Please open that vote.
A moment. The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable as amended. Item number 28.
This is 21R, 3867. It's a resolution by Councilmember Andre Dickens authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to accept a donation from Project backboard to the Department of Parks and Recreation of improvements valued at approximately $47,850, which will include refurbishing backboards, repainting courts and court lines and other repairs at Parkway Wabash Park, located at 391 Parkway Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, 30312, and for other purposes. Mr. Chair, we do have a substitute to include the body of this legislation, which was missing, and also attach the scope of work, Exhibit A.
Both are good ideas. I'll make a motion to bring forward the substitute. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair. The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. Substitute is before us. I will make a motion to approve on substitute. Is there a second?
Second, Smith.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Smith. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable on substitute. Number 29.
This is 21R 3911. This is a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to amend the housing assistance payments contract for Santa Fe Village and enter into a contract with G&S Santa Fe LLC with an effective date of July 1st, 2021 and expiring December 31st, 2021 for an amount not to exceed $481,200 for the purpose of paying rental subsidies on behalf of 100 housing units for low-income formerly housed individuals at Santa Fe Village pursuant to Section 8 Moderate Rehabilitation Program sponsored by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and for other purposes.
Motion from Councilmember Shepherd, which I will second. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bond?
Aye.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable. Item number 30.
Item number 30, Mr. Chair, is 21R 3912. This is a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or designee to enter into a contractual agreement with Wood Environment and Infrastructure Solutions for RFP S12-10134 fiscal year 2020 brownfield assessment on behalf of the Department of Planning in an amount not to exceed $293,500. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from fund department organization and accounts listed herein and for other purposes.
Vote Smith.
Motion by Smith to approve, which I will second. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Bond?
Aye.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. The item is favorable. I believe we have one held item all the way down at number 50. Ms. Lindo, if you would like to read that in.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's 21R 3821. This is a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into agreement number IFB S12-10202, the Summer Food Program with Meals Pro Incorporated on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation in an amount not to exceed $790,680. All contracted work to be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and accounts set forth herein and for other purposes. And we do have an amendment, Mr. Chair, to attach the IPRO report.
So we do, colleagues. That amendment came in at 1:23 p.m. And I will make a motion to amend to attach that report. Is there a second?
Second. Thank you.
Yep. Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is amended. I'll now make a motion to approve as amended. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Westmoreland, second by Bond. Please open that vote.
The vote is open, Mr. Chair.
5 yeas, 0 nays are coming, but I'll go ahead and let that close first. All right.
The vote is closed.
5 yeas, 0 nays. That item is favorable as amended. That is, unless there are any others, colleagues, the last item of our legislative agenda. Any general remarks?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go for it.
Just an announcement on tomorrow. Myself and Council Member Winslow will be hosting a Meals with Meaning Grab and Go event at the Cathedral of Faith Church of God in Christ at 1137 Avon Avenue at 3 p.m. This is in our continuing partnership with HelloFresh, Pratt Industries, and Second Helpings Atlanta. There's no prerequisite for service. We'll begin the food distribution at 3 p.m. while supplies last. Over 25% of indigenous Atlantans have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic economically. So a deserving family can come, no questions asked, to receive a meal kit that includes enough fresh groceries and produce to cook 2 meals for a family of 4. So please, if people are welcome to come, if you know someone, please pass the word along. That's tomorrow at 3 p.m. Cathedral of Faith of God in Christ, 1137 Avon Avenue at 3 p.m. Thank you.
Good deal. Anyone else?
Can I take it away?
Is all yours.
Move to adjourn.
All right. Got a motion to adjourn, which I will second. On unanimous consent, we will stand adjourned and be back on September 28th. Thanks, everyone.
Good meeting.
Good meeting.
Thank you.